And we're back. Welcome, Fantasy Plus. We made it back from a tough week. Joining me, as always, my good friends Phil Pinarski and Alec Giannakopoulos. It's that time of the year. Playoffs are wrapping up, but the offseason continues for fantasy. We've had a lot of coaching moves over the last couple weeks. Alec, Phil, let's listen to some of the coaches that were hired over the last couple weeks.
One of the most iconic franchises in all of sports. I wanted this job. I think I told you that, Mr. Mayor. I wanted this job. And to be on the biggest stage in the biggest sport.
What you see with me is what you get. It's going to come from the heart. It's going to be honest, and it's how I'm going to feel. I am truly humbled to stand here and be the head coach of the Miami Dolphins.
This is a special place. Atlanta's where I wanted to be. I wanted to be here. There was a pull to this job and a pull to this city, and it really started right at the top. It's Arthur Blank and Matt Ryan. Arthur and I share very similar values of how to treat people.
The most important piece to all of this, our players who are all back there. Can't wait to work with y'all, man. It's going to be freaking fun. We're going to get after it day after day. We're going to get better. We're going to bring a championship home, and it's going to start with you guys.
To our players, I really can't wait to get to work with you guys. We will build a true team built on toughness, fundamentals, team that plays together, and we will work to be the best team in the National Football League. And we will be at our best when our best is needed.
My heart is full. My focus is singular, and it's time to bring another championship back to this great city. I do want to thank two men. I'm very fortunate to call friends, Mike Tomlin and Bill Cowher. They've represented this organization with such class, and I'm honored to follow in their footsteps.
I want to thank and recognize Sean McDermott. In 2022, 4 years ago, Coach McDermott gave me an opportunity of a lifetime. I had an opportunity to come here, coach for the Buffalo Bills, and coach Josh Allen. I took immense pride in that.
So those are the coaches, a lot of sentiments there, different opinions. Any thoughts? First up, hearing those coaches talk at their introductory press conferences.
I love a good introductory press conference because you can say whatever you want to say, you know? You can say, I want to win a Super Bowl, and everyone's going to go, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. This is the time to do it. It just reminds me of how crazy these last couple of weeks have been. So many openings. And I feel like there were more openings than there were new names to have as a head coach. We saw a lot of retreads out there, which could be a great thing. We know Andy Reid was a retread, and he won a couple Super Bowls. It's just amazing to see the amount of turnover that we saw in this cycle and the amount of defensive guys that got that call up. Because the trend, the hot thing in football now is to have your play caller be your head coach. That way, no one gets poached, and you can keep that level of consistency with your quarterback. But we saw a lot of defensive guys out there, which is interesting for fantasy. So it's going to be fun to talk about and dissect these next couple of weeks here.
Yeah, I mean, my big takeaway from all of those press conferences was how similar they all sounded. Again, I know there's so many things that you can say in that introductory press conference, but the amount of people that were saying, "Can't wait to bring a championship. I wanted to be here." Well, you wanted to be there because you got fired. I mean, let's not beat around the bush here. I will say though, there are some of those hires I like a lot more, but I was kind of surprised by a few of them, especially for like rebuilding teams. They go for maybe an older veteran presence. That might sound good on paper, but I think you might want to find a coach that kind of fits the makeup of your team. John Harbaugh with Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo. I don't know how that's going to work out, for example. And I know like fan bases are a little worried about certain guys getting immediate rehires. You look at Kevin Stefanski. I know he's a two-time NFL Coach of the Year, but Falcons fans were a little shocked that he was the one and kind of the decision there. So again, just interesting to say the least, just how fast a lot of these guys were able to get jobs yet again.
Just a reminder, these are the 10 that changed during the 25 season. Mm-hmm. Alec, you're going to...
Does anybody remember, this is a bit of an aside, I don't want to blend sports here, but when Jason Kidd went to the Nets, and he was interviewed about turning around the franchise, he said, I want to take this team 360 degrees, which means I want to be bad, I want to get good, and then I want to go back to being bad. This is the time of year where there's a whole lot of talking, so I want to remind the people here at Fantasy Plus that I wanted to be here. This is the show I wanted to broadcast on. I want to take this all the way to the top, and I think we can only do that by going day by day, by being where our feet are, by every single moment, just trying to be 1% better. And I think if we can do that and we can execute the finer details, this may be the best streaming show on WoodTV Plus. I will not take any questions. Thank you for your time.
We're going to take this one episode at a time.
Right. I'm ready to run through a wall right now.
Okay, so coaches hired. Harbaugh with the Giants, Stefanski with the Falcons, Jeff Hafley with the Dolphins, Tennessee got Robert Saleh, Baltimore Jesse Minter. First thought on these 5.
Like kind of what I said, a lot of defensive guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Crazy to think about. I know Minter was a hot name. Saleh had 1 year off, and then he's back at it, or a couple years off, excuse me. Hafley from Green Bay. Like a lot of defensive guys, which for fantasy is everything. Because you have to monitor, let's say in Miami, all of a sudden the offense is humming, and they lose those coaches. Well, if you're in a dynasty league and you have, let's say, Devon Achane, for example, that looks so different from year to year that you no longer have those easy set and forget guys in a dynasty because so much changes year to year when an offensive coordinator or a play caller gets poached.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that kind of that same line of thinking, especially with the Miami job. You know, there's so many guys on that team that probably are going to be circled on everybody's draft boards. If they've got a defensive-minded coach, and maybe the focus of this team shifts to being more defensive focused, less about a flashy, high-scoring offense like we've seen with Mike McDaniel over the years, that could kind of play into, you know, do I want to draft a Jalen Waddle? What about Devon Achane, for example? So, again, something to keep in mind there. Aaron, if you want to go back to that graphic, though, just real quick. Jesse, that was his, I was trying to remember his first name, Jesse Minter. I'll say this about Baltimore. I like that his suit did not fit him at that press conference. If there's one thing we know about head coaches, is that you want a head coach that is so totally committed to film study and the team that they don't have time to, you know, go shopping for a really nice suit.
Right, that, and he was clearly reading
no
a
cards.
script
Clearly,
off of the table.
exactly.
That's
Public
a coach.
speaking is not his strong suit.
Spend no time to ever actually impress on your first press conference. You are a football guy, not a speaking guy. Give me the Cliff Notes, and we'll get through this.
Right.
Yep. You on my hand. Okay, so Harbaugh, he has Nagy as his OC
he does.
from Kansas City. And then Denard Wilson was the Tennessee DC, is now the New York DC. What do you guys think the impacts of Harbaugh and that coaching staff on fantasy?
This is going to be weird. Like, it just is. Like, how is that going to look? Matt Nagy, you know, famously was Bears head coach for couple seasons, went back to KC and struggled to find a head coaching job, left. The other former OC took that job in Bieniemy, and now here he is in New York. Like, what did we get from that offense last year? I'm talking about the Giants here. You saw a lot of Cam Scatterboo. They ran Cam Scatterboo into the ground in more than one way, and you saw Jackson Dart, like, get so much freedom. I felt like watching Giants games was like, all right, Jackson, you can run it if you want. Otherwise, send that thing downfield. So Nagy strikes me, just thinking back to when his time was with the Bears, as a guy who's very, you're running my offense. You're running my offense. And while it does involve a little bit of creativity, it's not going to be what it was last year. It's not going to be, hey, take 3 steps and decide what you're going to do for the rest of this game.
It's not like street ball.
No, right. So that's going to be interesting. There's going to be a rigid structure. How does that offense handle that rigid structure? Could go well. It could not.
Yeah, I think, you know, with Matt Nagy in particular, he does have that coaching experience, that head coaching experience. So, being personally, I think if your coordinators do have that head coaching experience, that is a good thing to have, but it could also, you know, lead to some butting heads. But I think Matt Nagy totally wanted this job because of Malik Neighbors and the chance of getting him back next year. I think, you know, you pair him with Jackson Dart, he's going to be in year 2. Cam Scatterboo comes back. I mean, the Giants, it's not a too bad looking offense if they can shore up that offensive line, maybe add another weapon in the draft.
And to that point, I do like the Nagy hire in the respect that he is very structured and very rigid, and this was a team that did not have structure. Their head coach was gone halfway through the season. So I think you always run the risk, and I think it's natural to be afraid of this for a young quarterback to spend their rookie season learning one playbook and then having to learn an entirely different playbook. And that's true for Neighbors and for the other young players on that team. If they can adjust to what he expects, I can see a chance of success. It just comes down to the challenge of undoing the bad habits you start to learn when you don't have the structure around you for that offense, for Dart, for everyone. If they can unlearn it and get on rails, there's pieces there to be successful, to at least for a fantasy perspective.
Right.
I'm excited about Jackson Dart in my keeper league. I got him late in the draft, so hopefully that'll work out. Next up, so Stefanski. I think this is one that fantasy players might be excited about. Stefanski finally has some pieces. He's got 2 potential quarterbacks, depending on how Penix's injury goes. They got Tommy Reese, who was the Cleveland OC, joined Stefanski in Atlanta, and then Jeff Ulbrich was the interim DC, is now the full DC in Atlanta. What do we think fantasy impacts here?
Well, it's high time to learn if it was Kevin Stefanski's fault or the Browns.
Yeah.
We're going to learn this in the next couple of years. We're going to learn who was the problem. Maybe the answer is both. Obviously, Stefanski, former coach of the year, highly regarded when he was coming out of Minnesota. There is a lot of buzz around this coach to this day. I mean, it's a credit to him that the Browns were as bad as they were for as long as they were, and he gets rehired. There's something there that teams and organizations like. There's a lot of potential. I'm scared at what they're doing with quarterback because now the previous administration that had this whole quarterback kerfuffle is gone. So you have a new GM and a new team led by Matt Ryan, and they now are dealing with an injured young quarterback or the Kirk Cousins that they spent a lot of money on. And I think fantasy owners had a lot more success with Kirk than with Penix. So I would exercise caution just in terms of patience. I don't think we're going to see this offense light it up right away. I think we're going to have time where this offense, this coach, this organization figures out its direction. So that could mean anything here. But what I would say is be patient. It's going to take time, I think, for a lot of those guys, maybe sans Bijan, to become reliable fantasy options.
Yeah, again, all totally depending on where they decide to go with the quarterback situation there. If they decide to, keep Kirk Cousins around, maybe go back to Michael Penix, maybe explore different options. I mean, that's going to be the total decision maker on if you should be really investing in a guy like Bijan and a guy like Drake London or some of these other weapons that they have, because we've seen it with Cleveland. When they've got a good, strong quarterback, like remember those early years with Baker Mayfield, that offense is great. I mean, we've seen it. And as far as Cleveland has been so bad for so long, and then they were able to turn it around like that. I think, again, it all just depends on quarterback play, because then when Baker was gone, they brought in Deshaun Watson. He was dealing with those injuries, Jameis Winston, Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel. I mean, I'm just going through all the different starting quarterbacks all over again. That's when they really struggled. So again, totally dependent on the quarterback here. I think if Stefanski gets a guy that he really likes and can really take a hold of that offense, I think Atlanta could be kind of where we maybe expected them to be last year as far as offensive weapon production.
Yeah, and I doubt Stefanski was the guy who wanted to draft 2 quarterbacks in that last year's draft. Like, there was issues with the Browns.
Yeah.
But like anything, I think when you're inheriting someone else's vision, and it's a vision with so much draft capital and money invested into it, there's going to be growing pains until that turns into what Stefanski wants it to be.
And because of trades, they don't have a first-round pick this year. So, but Stefanski's had that happen to him before. Okay, Jeff Hafley, the DC from Green Bay, takes over Miami Dolphins. They have the 11th pick in the draft. Bobby Slowick will be the offensive coordinator. He was Miami's senior passing game coordinator. And then Sean Duggan, hopefully I'm saying his name right, was the Green Bay linebackers coach. Comes along with Jeff Hafley to Miami. So we got a defensive-minded guy taking over a team that was known for its offense.
Slowick spent time with C.J. Stroud, right? That's his claim to fame.
Yeah.
He was a big head coach candidate a couple years ago. So seems to be the guy. That's a team, no matter who the coach is, and especially with a guy who's offensive, what are they doing at quarterback? That's the question. Are they going to pick a quarterback? There's not really a ton of options at where they're picking in the first round unless they want to move up and trade with Phil's Raiders for Fernando. I mean, so are they going to that's everything. Is we have to see who their quarterback is and what their plan is. Are they going to run it back with Tua? What's that going to look like? I know I was just preaching caution or patience rather for the Falcons, doubly so for Miami, because that's a team that ran themselves into a ditch and now has to get out of it. So I don't know what that team's going to look like in 2026.
Yeah, I think, the head coaching aside, I mean, I think this real story with Miami, and again, kind of re-emphasizing with some of those top guys that you might be eyeing in fantasy, it's going to totally depend on how well they, blend with Bobby Slowick. I think with the defensive head coach, he's going to have a say. He's going to be a part of the offensive meetings, but he is tasked with fixing that Miami defense above anything else. So maybe you're looking at Miami, possibly picking them up, but again, they're in a pretty tough division with Josh Allen and now Drake May and the Patriots who are going to the Super Bowl. So I don't really know. I don't think this really changes anything positively as far as who I'm eyeing in fantasy with the Dolphins.
And, I think the Dolphins are a prime sell hard candidate. Like they may be acquiring a few more picks this draft, if not draft's future. Yeah. I think you look at some of the money on that team, you look at where they've been and the age of some of those key players, they might be a team that looks drastically different from today to early September when we start the season. So that's one you gotta just watch closely too, because there are big players, but man, does that team need a lot before it can consistently compete again.
Do you think, this is totally out of left field, but we mentioned that Bobby Slowick and C.J. Stroud have a connection after what we saw with Houston in the playoffs and how they really were kind of hindered by his play in that game against New England? I mean, do you think maybe he could join Bobby and the Dolphins? And that might change him. I think he's maybe an upgrade than Tua.
Yeah. I don't know how ready the Texans are to get rid of a guy like that. And I think if you just have one good year of a quarterback, you chase it for 4 more years. Look at what's happened in Arizona. Yeah. They're finally giving up on Kyler after flashes for a couple of seasons. Yeah. I don't see it happening, but that's interesting nonetheless.
All right, you heard it here first. Phil's throwing it out there. Stroud.
I'm just saying, Davis Mills was undefeated last year. So.
That's right.
Yeah, and he's a good backup, so we'll see. Okay, next up. I'm so glad Robert Saleh is out of the NFC West. He takes over as Tennessee's head coach. They have the 4th pick in the draft coming up. They drafted Cam Ward last year. Their new OC is Brian Daboll, who was the Giants head coach. Back in 2025, reportedly, he wanted to have Cam Ward as the draft pick. He wanted to move up and get Cam Ward. Now he gets to be Cam Ward's OC. And Gus Bradley will be joining Saleh as the DC, formerly the San Francisco assistant defensive coach. Lots of things to like on this one, I think.
Yeah, a lot to like. And I think Saleh's a really good guy for that team. It's a young team. It's a team that hasn't tasted success yet. He seems like a disciplinarian. He seems like a guy that can get the most out of his players. Didn't work in New York, but nothing really does with the Jets. So I don't really hold that against him. Fantasy-wise, though, we got to wait. We got to see if they pick an offensive guy at 4. We got to wait. I wouldn't be running to take anyone on that offense right now, Cam Ward included, because Cam Ward has a lot of unlearning to do. This is what happens. This seems to happen a lot, and I understand why. It's that so Team A hires coach, and they tear it down. Year 2, they're so bad that they can draft a quarterback in the top 3. Year 3, they're still so bad because a rookie quarterback isn't going to save you. They fire their coach. Now you have to pair 1 year in the books quarterback with new head coach, and that can work, but also can be scary and definitely turbulent. It's safe to view these seasons as another rookie year for these guys because they have to learn everything again and unlearn bad habits. I talked about that earlier. So this is going to, I know I'm a broken record here. Maybe the slowest moving team, I think, will be Tennessee because there's a lot of waiting here. But I think the right guys are in the right spots for that team to make a turnaround.
Yeah, and Robert Saleh, again, another guy who does have that experience as a head coach. He's coming back, getting that second opportunity. You got to think that he's going to really take full advantage of this chance now. And I love that Brian Daboll hire.
Yeah, it's a good hire.
That is perfect. What I said, you want a guy who has that head coaching experience, has proven on, he's an offensive guy. And Giants offense, they did struggle, but it was never truly their fault. It was that defense and just kind of all the drama surrounding them. So I really like that. I think Cam Ward can they're already talking. Hopefully, they're already going through everything and, maybe even planning out who to get in the draft, because I think they should go full offensive mode in that, because they need to fill so many holes and help Cam Ward out as much as possible.
I love Dable too, because you always have the benefit, and maybe it depends on how successful it could be, but there are a lot of possibilities next year that they have a good year and no one poaches Dable because he was a coach already and it didn't work.
Right.
So it's a home run hire for a defensive guy, to get a guy on offense who you feel pretty good about them staying, even if you are successful for maybe a year or two extra than, say, you hire the most attractive OC and then they're gone the year after. There's a lot of experience in that room, and that should benefit Cam Ward.
Yeah, and like you said, they've got a lot of pieces, and they're going to be using those high draft picks to fill those spots. Last up, Baltimore, Jesse Minter, another DC taking over as an HC. Baltimore has the 14th pick in the draft, one of those teams that you would say probably isn't going to be picking this high again. Declan Doyle will be the OC. He was Chicago's OC, Alec. Then the DC, Anthony Weaver, formerly of Miami. He was Baltimore coach in 21 through 23.
Doyle's interesting because he's 30, maybe 31. He's young. And he was in the Peyton system before he came to Chicago, and everyone said he'll be a head coach in a couple of years. We'll see if that's the case. I have to wonder, are they going to just do the Ben Johnson type offense, the heavy tight end, play action focused offense? What is that going to look like? One thing to think about, if we are going to use the Ben Johnson lens, is, yeah, Caleb Williams scrambled, but it was not like we're going to design a run for you every single game. He did prioritize being a pocket passer. What will that mean for Lamar? What will that mean for that team in general? I think a Ben Johnson offense requires a really good offensive line, and depending on if they keep Tyler Linderbaum, they could have that, and requires a running attack check that you have in Henry. So I think the pieces are there if he's going to run a Johnson-esque offense. But I also think it's going to be interesting to see how Lamar looks, the numbers he puts up in an offense that prioritizes being in the pocket far more often than rolling out or scrambling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really looking forward to see what Lamar can do and kind of just bounce back this rate. I mean, I know me personally, and I'm assuming a lot of other people felt the same way, that Baltimore was going to be one of the most high-powered offenses yet again, and they kind of faltered a great deal last season. Injuries, of course, being a big part of that, but I'm interested to see Lamar's relationship because he's only had John Harbaugh as his head coach. So you're moving in, weird place in your career after a really down year. You're a multiple-time MVP. How do you kind of blend in and start this next chapter in Baltimore? So that's going to be the real key there. I don't mind the hire. Like I said, I think Jesse Minter is a Slav dressing, kind of way. He's not dressed, suit and tie and everything like that, fully tailored up and everything like that. So I know he's a football guy. I am very excited to see how that's all going to work out, though. But again, kind of weird to know that John Harbaugh's not going to be in Baltimore purple.
More worried about the X's and O's than the fit on the suit.
Yeah.
We've got more coaches and stuff to go through. We'll be right back in a quick break. All right, welcome back, Fantasy Plus. Thanks for staying with us. We're going through all the coaching changes from the 2025 season into the 2026 season as we get going here. Next on the list, you got a few more offensive-minded coaches. Mike McCarthy, Joe Brady, Todd Monken, Mike LaFleur, and the Raiders are expected to hire someone I'm close to.
Eventually, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. So that's why I left it as expected to hire. Let's start with Pittsburgh. Tomlin's gone. Mike McCarthy takes over. They're going to have the 21st pick in the draft. Arthur Smith left to go to Ohio State. Their OC is still unfilled as the last check as of this recording. Then Patrick Graham, the Raiders DC, becomes the Steelers DC.
What is that team going to look like this year? Like, just thinking for fantasy, like, who's the quarterback? What's going on? Will they keep DK? Like, there are so many questions I don't have an answer to. McCarthy's a very Steelers hire. I think when you have only had 2 coaches for however long, for decades in Pittsburgh, you don't want to hire a new guy. You want to maybe go off a guy with a history and a pedigree. McCarthy certainly has that. His last stop, though, wasn't the most amazing. He's an accomplished coach. He doesn't have a play caller yet, and I don't know who's going to be the guys that they call the plays for yet.
Right.
So I don't know what Pittsburgh's going to look like.
Right? Are they hoping for somebody from the Super Bowl to pick off, or what?
Maybe.
Sorry, Phil.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, it would be kind of fun, I guess, to see Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy together again. But I don't think that that's going to happen. And then that kind of leads to what we've been talking about all season. And that was, I have questions about Pittsburgh's offensive weapons. DK was hit or miss most weeks. The running game never really got off the ground. Aaron Rodgers had maybe few games here and there. So already, for fantasy-wise, you probably weren't even looking at Pittsburgh besides the defense already. And so, does this hire really change anything? To me, not really. And again, it will depend on who Mike McCarthy is comfortable with maybe helping out call the plays, because I remember that was a big deal when he was down in Dallas and in Green Bay, was who's calling the plays. And, he's from Pittsburgh. He's a Pittsburgh native, so I think there is some connection there between the fan base, so I think he's going to get maybe a longer leash. But will he be as long tenured as, say, Bill Cowher, Chuck Noll, Mike Tomlin? I mean, they've only had he's the 4th coach in franchise history, for goodness sake. So again, is he going to get those many chances? I don't know.
Well, so I wonder how much of a leash he'll get, because yes, he's a native. Yes, this is a team that has a certain aura and respect around it. But this is a team that's finished almost identically in the same spot for the last however many years. And they're going to, I expect, to be bad next year.
Right.
So I think fans will be able to give him time, because they know you have to get bad to get good in this league, or any league. But I wonder, what is the consensus around him? And man, Metcalf feels like the guy you draft in the 8th round when the guy you wanted was picked, and you go, I mean, who else is catching passes on this team? I may as well pick DK, and you cut him in the 4th round or the 4th week if he stays on your roster, and if he stays on the Steelers. It just, this whole team feels like I got to give it some time before I even consider picking anybody up.
But the good thing, fantasy fans, Arthur Smith is not in the NFL in 2026.
That's true. And there's no fan. I mean, if you're doing college football fantasy, seek help.
Yeah. Also,
that's a lot.
Send us a message. We might want to join your league.
Yeah.
Next up, Joe Brady. Yeah, I did these in order of when they were hired. Joe Brady takes over for Buffalo. He's been the OC since 2023. They had the 26th pick in the draft. Pete Carmichael comes from Denver. He was a senior offensive assistant. And the DC is Jim Leonard, who was the defensive pass game coordinator and assistant head coach for Denver. So 2 Denver coordinators coming over to join Joe Brady, who's been Josh Allen's OC for several seasons now.
Yeah, this one's really funny. It doesn't happen often where there's a head coaching change and you expect the exact same thing that was going on before the head coach was fired, at least offensively.
Right.
That's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting the same offense we've had, and that is draft Josh Allen and hope you have the guy Josh Allen was throwing to that week on your team. That's the Bills, and we're going to keep that going. I understand it from a just football point of view. You don't want to mess with your star quarterback. I get it. I don't know how much of an improvement you can ask for when it's the same guy who was calling plays. He's just calling plays again in a bigger role. I don't get it in that perspective. But fantasy-wise, I'll go. Do what you were doing with the Bills.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I think the Joe Brady hire just goes to show the connection that he has with Josh Allen. There's no way the Bills didn't consult him about this hire because, again, he is the franchise right now. Don't think you really change anything. I am, though, because Sean McDermott was a defensive-minded head coach. I don't know how that really played into the draft prospect, but if you've got an offensive guy like Joe Brady who, was at LSU, he's got, connections in college football right now, still probably, and he, can probably find a good wide receiver to pair up because, there's all that drama around Keon Coleman right now about the draft process with the Bills there. So I think, if they can find a really good, and they're, still in the first round, later first round, so you can maybe even reach on a wide receiver in that first round and possibly bring them and, get that connection going with Josh Allen. So I like the hire, honestly.
That's a good point. I do feel like the Ravens and Bills are in that same spot of, like Zay Flowers to an extent, but who's going to catch passes this week?
Yeah.
And I think both of them could really benefit from having that escape hatch. Number one, you're getting the football when I need to get the football to someone. And maybe now with an offensive guy, a guy that really trusts his quarterback at the helm, they invest more in offense than they have. That's something to monitor, but even then, a rookie receiver might be the only thing that changes how I would approach the Bills fantasy-wise. And that's if they pull the trigger in round one.
Right.
And even then, who's available. But that's 17 other things we got to talk about later.
Right. But bottom line, if you like James Cook and Josh Allen in 2025, you like him in 2026.
Definitely.
You'll like them.
Yeah. Next up, Todd Monken,
Sure.
a familiar name. He takes over as Baltimore's OC. Now, Cleveland. He was Baltimore's OC. Cleveland has pick number 6 and number 24. Travis Switzer comes over. He was Baltimore's run game coordinator, and the DC is up in the air because Jim Schwartz packed up his office and said, "I'm out of here." So there's some questions in Cleveland, but we're focused more on the fantasy side. I'm not feeling great about.
You got to hire someone.
Yeah.
All right. There were a lot of openings, and I don't want to be mean, but the Cleveland Browns have not given a lot of historical precedent to attract a coach who thinks he'll be there in 5 years.
Yep.
So you have to hire someone. Monken has been a name we've seen in the coach carousel for years. He has never been given the keys, but has always interviewed for that position and never got it. Is there a reason? Maybe we'll learn. We don't even know who the quarterback one in this team is yet. Monken hasn't confirmed that it's Sanders. So you weren't going to draft Browns anyway. Let's call a spade, right? It's how many Browns were you targeting on your big board? Don't do it still.
Running back, tight end.
Yeah. Right.
That's it.
Right. Yeah, I kind of, again, running back tight end. I think Harold Fannin Jr. might still be a guy to go after. We've seen what he was able to do in Baltimore. Granted, Baltimore is a little bit better than Cleveland probably, but with the run game, Quinshon Judkins had a great year last year. I wouldn't,
he did.
Maybe he moves up your draft boards a little bit, but again, I don't. Still the Cleveland Browns. I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't want to hype him up. Monken's used a lot of 12 personnel with the 2 tight ends in the past, so we'll see. But at least hoping for Harold Fannin. For next year in Keeper League. Okay, Mike LaFleur. I could connect the dots, but I'm not going to.
That name, it sounds so familiar.
You got the relationship with the Green Bay head coach. He was the OC for the Rams. He's now taking over for the Cardinals. They have the 3rd pick in the draft. Alec talked about it earlier. Kyler Murray. What are they going to do at quarterback? There's a lot of questions here, but he was at least the OC on a high-powered team.
Yeah, so OC on a high-powered team. Now it's his first chance to call plays. That brings a lot of risk and, of course, a lot of upside. These are the guys that get hired that get fired in 2 years or stay on a team for 20. Like that, you're rolling the dice, and I like that. I think that's shoot for the stars here. That being said, can any coach reach Kyler? Does any coach even want to reach Kyler anymore? Have we given up on the Kyler experiment? If so, we're going into quarterback dead zone, where there's one quarterback in the top 10 who's worth picking, and he's going to that guy's team. So after that, what are we going to do? Do we run it back with Jacoby? Like, there's just... This one's interesting because I love when a young play caller comes in and installs their offense, because I think there's tremendous upside. Kind of true to what I was alluding to with Declan Doyle. I think these are the teams where you can take a receiver in the 10th round because no one knows how this new coach wants to use this guy. Then it could be a league winner for you. So there's tremendous upside, and there's obvious talent on this team. let's not forget how good Marvin Harrison Jr. was in college. Right. And one of his teammates, I think they were cross paths, in Jackson Smith and Jigma, is a perfect explanation and a perfect story of a guy can be given a bad play caller and be severely limited, and then when he gets a guy that understands what he can do, he can take off. So I think it's a great team to take gambles on, especially with Marvin Harrison Jr., because he will not be in the top 3 rounds. Maybe not even top 4. I don't know where the mock. I don't know who's mocking in February. Again, you're a sicko. But if mocks are happening, like I don't imagine him being the first 20 receivers off the board. Perfect chance to steal a league winner if LaFleur comes in and realizes how he can use a guy with the obvious physical talent like Marvin Harrison Jr. These are the fun ones. These are the risks, and I think these are the guys you take flyers on because they will never, if they are successful, obviously, never be cheaper in the draft than they are now.
Well, I don't know if you guys heard in his introductory press conference, but he gave a shout out to CMU, so that was kind of cool. So he's already good in my book, I guess. But does this change anything? Again, we've talked about it a couple of times with a couple of different teams and head coaching hires. It depends on who they decide to go with at quarterback. I thought Jacoby Brissett did a really good job at the end there, but is that going to fit into what LaFleur is going to want to do with this new team? Does it fit in better with Marvin Harrison? What about Trey McBride? What about these running backs that showed flashes and then got hurt? So again, there's still some options, but I think Arizona, a lot like what we've seen with some of these other teams with these new head coaches, is a wait and see period. Maybe pick them up late rounds if you can. Definitely watch them on the waiver wire after week 1. Maybe they pop off.
And Trey McBride, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned him. That could go the other direction.
Right, that too.
He was the focal point of that offense, an offense that really prioritized tight ends.
Right.
And obviously, a guy like McVay uses tight ends, but not to that extent or not in the exact same way. So it all comes down to looking at fits, how they work out, and obviously waiting until teams are constructed before you could really make a final call on these guys.
Right. See what they do in free agency and in the draft. Last but not least, Phil, the Raiders are expected to hire
somebody.
Seattle offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak, who's going to be playing in the Super Bowl. As of this recording, they have not hired either coach or obviously their coordinators. What are we thinking here, Phil? First blushes on who you want to see.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like Clint Kubiak is going to be the Raiders head coach, which I'm not mad at. I mean, he transformed that Seattle offense and, made them what they are today. I mean, they're playing in the Super Bowl. So I'm excited to see it. Again, the Raiders, as much as I hate them, they have some pieces here and there. Ashton Genty had a good rookie season. Brock Bowers should hopefully bounce back. I mean, he still even had a couple of, nice moments last year, but it wasn't like his rookie year. So hopefully he's able to bounce back. They have the #1 overall pick. You've got to hit on that quarterback, though. Whether it's Fernando Mendoza, which it's looking like it is most likely going to be, or they try to find somebody else, or maybe even in free agency, or maybe try to swing a trade for somebody. I don't know, but you've got to finally get somebody behind center that you can trust to lead this offense, because even last year, what we saw, that defense for the longest time for the Raiders has been the detriment to that team. They give up so many points, so many yards. The drives last so long. They were finally able to put together a pretty decent season last year. And it was the offense that was holding them back. So again, bring a guy in like Kubiak who has a history of turning around an offense. You just got to hit on the quarterback, and that's going to be my biggest question.
Yeah, that's everything. You kind of nailed it too. With respect, this is a team that's been picking early for a little bit now, and there's some serious talent on that team because of it. It all comes down to who can unlock it, and this is kind of what I was saying a little bit about the other two first-time OCs. Is there's a really good chance for value here because you will be amazed at what a coach can do. There's a first year head coach playing in the Super Bowl this Sunday. Look at Jacksonville and Chicago. Sometimes, legitimately, all you need is a coach. If the talent's there and they're not playing to their utmost potential, that is when a home run hire coach can bring these guys to playing at their best. So I love, especially what was happening to Genty last year was football malpractice. Dude got hit in the backfield, a third of his handoffs.
Right. Yeah.
So obviously some upgrades need to be done on offense too. But I love the idea of taking a guy who some people in your league may be out on because they burned them last year or they're part of a team that never scores touchdowns, and understanding, well, wait a minute, this is a new coach, this is a new system, and all that could be all it takes before these guys suddenly become league winners, or at the very least, guys I feel great starting with every single week that I can snag in the 6th, 5th round, depending on who we're talking
Maybe
about.
we'll get
here.
a dip on some of those
Yeah.
Raiders players. Phil, I just want to go on record and say, I know you're frustrated with the Raiders, but I think your organization is turning it around.
No, don't say that to him.
The changes that they're making. They've got a top pick. They're not the dumpster fire. Like, there's 3 other teams. I'm not going to name them. I'm not going to throw those teams under the bus. But
I'm just gonna.
I just don't think.
I don't want to speak for Phil here.
Go for it.
Don't say that to him until his team is good.
I know, I'm just-
because all that is salt in the wound for when your team is bad. Everyone's like, hey, they look pretty good next year, and you're sitting here being like, yeah, man, I watched them stink for all my life.
Right.
So
I sat through the 80s with the Seahawks guys, so
All I'm going to say is the last time the Raiders had the #1 overall pick, they drafted Jamarcus Russell. I'm just going to leave it at that. Everybody thought that was the great move. That was the next step for them, and 0 playoff. Well, yeah, 0 playoff wins since then.
Yeah.
1 playoff appearance, yeah.
different organizational moves since
Right.
then. But I wasn't going to bring up Jamarcus. But
Kind of forced my hand. I had to.
yeah, okay.
Any chance I get, I've got to bring it up.
Some of the notable OCs: Drew Petzing hired for the Lions. He was the Arizona OC. Mike McDaniel, I think, is the exciting one from Miami to the Chargers. And then you mentioned it, Bieniemy comes over from Chicago to be KC's offensive coordinator. And then the Eagles have another new OC in Sean Mannion. Any of those?
Well, nobody was taking the Eagles' job because they don't want their house to get egged, and I understand that. The Lions is interesting, very interesting, because I don't know what's going to happen there. This is a system that is very catered to Jared Goff, and the system he's getting in what Petzing did, I should say, in Arizona, it's very quarterback friendly, very tight end heavy, very 12 personnel involved. Then they hired Mike Kafka as like a adjacent coach. Is he a passing game coordinator? I think that's his official role. I might be wrong on that. So now you have another cook in the kitchen. And the Lions find themselves in a super interesting position where it is, how much do we change? Because I think what people forget last year is, yeah, they didn't have the best year wins and losses, but that offense was good. Top 5 in scoring, found the way to have Amon-Ra St. Brown still be a guy you can rely on in fantasy. Jahmyr Gibbs, Jared Goff, sometimes J-Mo. So from a fantasy perspective, man, they still scored and they still moved the football. So how much do new guys change the makeup of that offensive structure? Because Campbell just ran what Campbell likes, and these guys, while aligned with it, have to have their own preferences. So that's something to monitor. I don't think it's going to change production. I think his Lions offense is still going to be great next year. But just something to see. That's always the most interesting stuff. Those small wrinkles when different play callers come in and you still want to keep the concept of continuity alive with your established players on offense.
I mean, when I heard that Drew Petzing was going to be coming over, my first thought was, okay, maybe put less of an emphasis on guys like David Montgomery, or hoping that Jahmyr Gibbs is more utilized in the running game, because I feel like he's going to want to pass the ball all the time. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs is still obviously going to be involved heavily in the passing game, maybe less to a lesser extent David Montgomery, but, J-Mo, Amon-Ra St. Brown, they get Sam Laporta back, for instance. I mean, Jared Goff even, I feel like, could be one of those top 5 guys in fantasy just from the sheer volume that I feel like he's going to be throwing the ball next season.
The only reason why I'm not like, hey, this means that you should draft Sam Laporta in the 3rd round is his back injury.
Right.
That's scary. And there's so much risk when you're investing such high draft capital. But yeah, this is a guy that championed Trey McBride, and now he has just as capable a tight end at his disposal. The back injury scares me. So I would say draft him with that caution in mind, because I don't even know. I think Campbell was saying they hope to have Laporta ready come August. So that means it's a pretty heavy offseason schedule for him, and that could burn you. But ideally, tight ends in this offense feast, and there's no better route runner, there are few, than a guy like Sam Laporta.
Right. And for the Mike McDaniel thing to the Chargers, I mean, I like that because I have a feeling Mike McDaniel maybe even wanted to have Justin Herbert all along, even because, him and Tua came in the same draft class. So, that might be interesting, kind of get an alternate dimension, I guess, look at that, of what could have been in Miami.
Yeah, it felt like that was a really good offense, but it felt like McDaniel was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It felt like the role of a head coach was too much for him, or at the very least in that position in Miami.
Right.
But man, with the bones there, when an offense was clicking, it was clicking, and that's everything. And now he goes from a quarterback that we saw flashes in to a quarterback that's career has been based off really impressive flashes that we're hoping becomes a consistent top 5 guy. So I think that's a really smart hire. I think he had probably his choice of where to go, and I think he probably hitched his wagon onto Herbert. So yeah, love that hire.
And the Chargers were unlucky in the health of their offensive line last year.
That line's
so,
excellent and healthy.
So like one more, healthy piece there, and they're ready. They're loaded and ready to go. And maybe they pick up a wide receiver in the draft or something like that. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to go through the picks 19 through 30 that we didn't get in the last episode. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, Fantasy Plus. Ready to go through the rest of the draft picks that we didn't get in the last episode.
There we go. Yeah.
We got the guys. There we go. In case you missed it, got to bring this back. There we go. Yep.
There we go.
And
Same hairline.
Oh, come on.
It's close.
He's
Eventually.
widow's peaking hard.
Yeah.
Give yourself some
He
respect.
is the widow's peak.
Yeah, right.
All right. Carolina Panthers have 19. Cowboys have 20 from the Green Bay trade. Steelers are 21st. Chargers 22nd. Eagles 23rd. Thoughts on these picks?
Yeah, this is where I think I think we start seeing, I don't want to predict a run in February, but like there's your top flight receivers that'll be off the board. And then I think we'll get hungry for receivers around here. Those fringe guys, late first, early second guys, I think teams can stomach taking them here. And I think there's a lot of teams that are in the market for a receiver. Maybe sans the Eagles. Panthers would love to have a Robin to Tet's Batman. I mean, the Cowboys, we don't know what's happening with the money they're investing in their position, but could always use one. Obviously, Steelers. And so I do think there is a heavy need in offense here. It could happen. But also, I mean, this is also a deep edge draft. There could be an edge rod around here. This is a not deep tackle draft, but this is where guards usually go late in the first round. So I expect a position run here. I don't know what I can put my thumb on, though, in terms of what specific position just yet.
Right. I mean, who's happier right now than Bryce Young? I mean, he not only is this not a super deep quarterback draft class coming up, but, you made it to the playoffs. You proved that you can lead this team. You just need a few extra pieces. 19, that is right on the cusp of, again, where you can reach, I put that in quotes because sometimes it's not necessarily reach, but you can go out and grab that offensive skill player that maybe some people would say, you can get that in the second round. No, that's a perfect time to go ahead and grab somebody. If you can get one of those top receivers that are in the class still at 19, you definitely have to jump the gun there and just grab them up.
Don't forget, this is where Justin Jefferson was picked in this part of the draft, and a receiver went right before him. Yes, you can find some serious talent here. Just because this isn't the blue chip part where every guy has so much expectations around him doesn't mean you can't find a franchise-altering dude at this spot.
There's multiple teams there that may be looking for that. Okay, next group, we got the Cleveland Browns. That's from their pick with Jacksonville. The Bears at 25, the Bills at 26, the Niners at 27, and the Texans at 28.
Yeah, kind of same as what I was saying. Like this is where you either do what the Rams did for so long and trade back into the second round and you recoup picks, or you take a swing on a guy that you think is a toolsy, athletic guy that you really think could fit your team. I'll talk about the Bears because it's who I am. Defensive line here, especially, you need that bad. But I think, especially here, it's harder to draft for, let's say, need, because that could not be on the board at this point. There could be a run on a position you want. And I think foolish teams still reach for the next best whatever position and usually regret that. And that's usually where we see these busts. Hard to call it a bust at 27, but you know what I'm saying. I think it's best seen here at this position just to draft the guy you most think fits your system, fits your scheme, and that you're most excited for. That could be an offensive guy. We kind of talked in broader strokes about the offense a little bit earlier and how running back is kind of shallow and receivers are a little top heavy. But this is that time where you start to get guys that get second-round grades that turn out to be really special or forgettable and not worth a second round one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, outside of the Browns, all these teams are obviously playoff teams, and that's what I always really enjoy come draft time is, these teams are either a piece away or maybe they faltered a little bit in the playoffs, and they are looking for that extra guy to get them over the edge. Where do they go? Where are they kind of looking for it? And I feel like that'll tell more so about where this team is going to be fantasy-wise next year, because if you say, take the Bills, for example, we touched on it. They need, at least in my opinion, I think they need to get you a wide receiver for Josh Allen. So if they maybe go with a wide receiver there, okay, they are a little bit more committed to that offensive passing game, and definitely maybe changes things on how you view that Bills offense. Bills offense, but if they go defense, then okay, they're still trying to fix some holes on that defensive side of the ball too. Maybe again, the offense is going to be more predicated on just giving the ball to Josh Allen, letting him do whatever he wants. So that's what I'm going to be kind of keeping a closer eye on, especially with some of these teams that do have new offensive coordinators, new head coaches, and new defensive coordinators.
Let me get a little trade happy here. Deals will happen, especially at the end of this round and the start of the second round. So this might look a lot different come April, because this is when teams lose that last guy they really wanted to draft, and they'll just go, whatever, we'll recoup some picks back. Or, to what you were saying, we got to get this guy, and they'll trade up to grab him. So this is definitely the trade zone. This is one of the more fun parts of the draft, especially because you don't got to wait 70 hours for the pick to be made. I love the more we get into it, the quicker the picks come in. That's just me.
All right. And 2 new coaches on that screen. Last 4, the Rams at 29, the Broncos at 30, and then 31, 32.
Seahawks 31, right? Is that how it's going to go?
I believe they're going to be 32.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to mess
but
with
I'm
you.
nervous. We'll see.
Okay.
Don't like the Rams having 2 picks in this draft.
Yeah, what happened to the team that burned every pick they ever had? Now all of a sudden
They
they're
got more.
Right.
yeah. But that's what I was saying. They've been doing that more recently, and I like that. I like when teams deal out of here if they're not in love with a guy, because it's still a first-round pick. And the thing that didn't surprise you, maybe a player that a team early in the second round would love to get to and would offer a future first or a future second. There's real value to be had here if you're not in love with these guys. So something to monitor as we get to the end of the NFL draft's first night.
Yeah, gotta be cool to be a Broncos fan right now, because you still have Bo Nix on his rookie deal. You saw what they were able to do. Had he been healthy, they might be in the Super Bowl right now over the Patriots. So you gotta think you're in a pretty prime position right now. You still have your first round pick, can go in a variety of different ways. So again, I think the Broncos honestly are looking pretty good right now. Obviously did not end the way they wanted to, but could be worse.
Looking pretty stacked. Well, I've got one more question for you.
Okay.
This is the overtime question. Either current or all-time, who's on your fantasy podium? Your fantasy football players that are on the podium. We're coming up to the Olympics, so gold, silver, bronze. Who are your top 3 players?
Of all time?
Either all-time or current.
Okay, so I am a value weirdo. Okay. The last thing I'm gonna say is oh man, Adrian Peterson, because of course he's really good. I'm going to say James White is my number one. I loved drafting James White every stinking year because that guy was getting you 12 points. And you could pick him in the 7th round every single draft. So that is my fantasy guy. I think about the years in which I would always reach for James, and it would always be a perfect value get. So as nonsensical as it sounds, my gold medal goes to Big James White.
Ugh, I mean, all time. I mean, geez, that is such a tough question.
Could be now, currently.
Well, I'm trying to think of all time. I mean, this year, we had some fun, but would I pick any of these guys? Maybe Harold Fannin Jr. I really liked him last year, but would I give him bronze? I don't know, maybe. I remember one year I drafted Alvin Kamara after he had that breakout season when I think he ended the season with that 7 touchdown game or whatever it was. And I really thought that he was going to be kind of the future, a guy that I always kept drafting. I've talked about him a few times this season on the show, thinking he would break out, and that just never happened. So maybe a guy like him, I don't know.
Oh, my silver goes to the year where Nick Chubb was hurt to start the year, and no one believed in him, and I stashed him. I stashed him, and he was ready.
Yeah.
And then I had an awesome year. So that's what I'll probably go silver. To me, it's like, what the beauty of fantasy is these weird relationships you have with guys that are on teams you normally wouldn't watch nearly as much,
Right.
and do things for your team. So yeah, the year where I stashed Chubb is probably my number 2. I need second for my bronze. I need a second to think of that, but that's my first and silver for sure, my gold and silver.
I'll also throw out Jacoby Brissett this year, just because we're thinking about it. You know, that game where he threw 50 times or 52 times or whatever, broke the NFL record for most pass attempts. I think he was the reason I won that week. So he gets a silver place over Kamara probably.
For my podium, it's Chris Carson, former running back for the Seahawks. The year that I won the Wood TV League, he was on my team. I had Barkley and Kamara. Yeah, try to figure out that draft, how I ended up with those two. But then Chris Carson was the just get me over the point. I was up against Brett Thomas. If you watched Wood TV long enough, Brett Thomas, former Daybreak Anchor, he had the juggernaut team, and I ended up with Barkley, Kamara, and Carson, and beat him in the Super Bowls.
Bronze, can I do a pick that wasn't on my team?
Sure.
Okay, so it was in my old league in college, and my buddy, whose name was Aaron Jones, drafted Aaron Jones at the end of his draft because he was like, this is really funny.
Yeah.
He has my name. And all of a sudden he was a league winner.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the magic of fantasy football. So I'm gonna give my buddy's pick of Aaron Jones on the team. That's my bronze.
Yeah, Mike Ingram used to draft the Ingrams. So like running back Mark Ingram was on Mike Ingram's. Yes, lots of fun there. Anything else, Phil?
Yeah, I guess gold would have to go to Christian McCaffrey. There
Okay,
was a year back in the day when I drafted him, and he was the reason I won my league. And then the next year he got hurt, and the guy who drafted him lost the league. So, he held out long enough while I had him. So you know what? Gold medal goes to Christian McCaffrey.
All right. Those
James
are,
White, I still remember you, buddy. Go
there you go.
Badgers.
Chris Carson. Go Hawks. Hey, thanks for joining us this week. We'll see you in the next episode, and we'll have more in the off season. Thanks for watching Fantasy Plus.